I just wanted to start by saying that I had my friend translate these names for me, so if they're wrong, blame Armand. The battlefields for this game are Reaver's Row for Zhu, who is playing Annie, Darkchild, and Sigil of the Storm for Lu, who is playing Misfortune, Bounty Hunter. Lu will go first, so he'll channel 2, and then he'll draw for turn. He'll get things started by exhausting 1 rune to play a stacked deck, looking at the top 3 cards of his deck, choosing 1 to go into his hand, and recycling the other 2. Looks like he chooses Immobilize that I'm sure he really wished he had to start the turn. Then, with nothing else to do, he'll pass the turn. Because he went second, Zhu will channel 3, then he'll take a quick look at his hand and draw for turn. He'll start things off by exhausting 3 runes to play a sneaky deckhand directly to Reaver's Row thanks to its ability. This will start a showdown, so Lu will exhaust 1 rune to play a gust, putting the sneaky deckhand back in Zhu's hand. Having his attempt to gain a quick point thwarted and with nothing else to do, he will pass the turn, and Annie's legend ability will activate, restanding 2 of his runes. Lu will channel 2, make sure none of the cards in his hand went missing, then he'll draw for turn. After spending a couple of minutes on every Aurora player's toughest decision, which ramp card to play, he decides to go with Mobilize, exhausting 2 runes and channeling 1. Then, with nothing else to do, he'll pass the turn. Zhu will channel 2, and then he'll draw for turn. After a minute and a half of deliberation, he decides to exhaust 5 runes, recycling 1 Fury rune to accelerate a Kaisa Survivor, and then immediately move it into Reaver's Row to score his first point and draw a card thanks to Kaisa Survivor's ability. With nothing else to do, he'll end his turn restanding 2 runes with Annie's legend ability. Lu will channel 2 upside down runes, and then he'll draw for turn. He'll get his turn started by exhausting 4 runes to play a Catalyst of Aeon and channel 2. He's hit all the ramp cards, and he does have Aurora in hand, so next turn it's probably going to get a little problematic for Annie. Then, after some quick finger counting to make sure that he will have enough runes for Aurora next turn, he will pass the turn. Zhu will score his second point for holding Reaver's Row, then he'll channel 2, make sure I can't smoothly voice this all in one take, then he'll draw for turn. He'll get things started by exhausting 5 runes and recycling a Fury rune to play Darius Trifarion into his base exhausted, which he will follow up by exhausting another rune to play a stacked deck, allowing him to look at the top 3 cards of his deck and add 1 to his hand, recycling the others. He grabs a cleave, and then, per the game rules, he gives his opponent the 2 cards to cut them. Because that was the second card he played this turn, Darius Trifarion will ready itself and gain +2 might. He will then move it into Sigil of the Storm. He will conquer it, scoring his 3rd point, but then he'll have to recycle a rune thanks to Sigil of the Storm's effect. He'll follow this up by retreating the Kaisa Survivor back to base, and with nothing else to do, he'll pass the turn, restanding 2 runes thanks to Annie's legend ability. Lu will channel 2, then he'll draw for turn. Looks like he drew a second Aurora, so things are probably going to start getting very bad. After a quick chuckle, he'll waste no time exhausting 9 runes and recycling 2 body runes to play a dazzling Aurora. He'll then pass the turn, triggering Aurora's ability. And because double ramping into Aurora wasn't enough, he'll hit the perfect card off the top of the deck to make sure his opponent does not run away with the score before he can establish a bunch of free big units, dropping the Deadbloom Predator right on Darius Trifarion's head. Thanks to those 2 runes that Annie just restood for him, Zhu is able to respond by exhausting both runes to play a flash, moving the Darius back to his base, saving it from being killed by the Deadbloom Predator. Lu will conquer Sigil of the Storm, scoring his first point, and forcing him to recycle 1 rune. Then, the turn will finally pass to Zhu. Zhu will channel 2, and then he'll draw for turn. He'll get his turn started by moving Kaisa Survivor into Reaver's Row to score his 4th point and draw a card thanks to Kaisa Survivor's ability. Next, he'll exhaust 2 runes to play a Traveling Merchant into his base exhausted, which he will follow up by exhausting 1 more rune to play a Cleave onto his Darius Trifarion. Because he's played 2 cards this turn, the Darius Trifarion will gain 2 might, and then Cleave will give it a solid 3. He'll then sling this 10 might Darius straight in for a showdown with the Deadbloom Predator. But unfortunately for him, Lu will exhaust 2 runes, recycling 2 Chaos runes to swiftly rebuke the big Darius back into his hand. Even though the Darius is unable to kill the Predator and take the battlefield, it is worth noting that his effort is not in vain, because the recycle from Rebuke will stop Lu from being able to play 2 Auroras in a row. Having his first plan thwarted, he'll follow it up by exhausting 2 runes to play Noxus Hopeful, which will only cost 2 thanks to its Legion ability. And with nothing else to do, he'll pass the turn, restanding 2 runes thanks to Annie's Legend ability. Lu will score a point for holding Sigil of the Storm, then he'll channel 2 and draw for turn. To get things started, he'll use his Misfortune's Legend ability to give the Deadloom Predator ganking. Then the Predator will take a quick jaunt over to Reaver's Row for a showdown with the Kaisa Survivor. Thanks to Reaver's Row, the Kaisa is able to retreat and actually survive for once. Lu will then score his 3rd point on his steady climb up to victory. He'll follow this up by exhausting 2 runes to play a Mobilize, channeling 1. Then he'll follow that up by exhausting 5 runes and recycling a body rune to play Misfortune Captain into his base exhausted. Then with nothing else to do, he'll pass the turn, moving to the trivial matter of playing a free card from the top of his deck. 2 cards down, he hits a Mindsplitter just to make sure that his opponent doesn't have any answers that could potentially stop him from destroying him. He'll play the Mindsplitter into Reaver's Row because why not, since he can just give something ganking next turn. Then the Mindsplitter's ability will trigger, allowing him to look at his opponent's hand and discard one of the cards from it. He ends up choosing one of the 2 Darius Trifarion, sending it to the trash. Then the turn will finally pass to Zhu. Zhu will channel 2, and then he'll draw for turn. He'll get things started by exhausting 3 runes to play the sneaky deckhand from earlier straight to Sigil of the Storm. This will score him his 5th point and force him to recycle a rune because of Sigil. He will follow this up by exhausting 5 runes and recycling a Fury rune to play Darius Trifarion. And because it's the 2nd card he's played this turn, it will ready itself and gain 2 might. Then after some quick math, he'll move everything except for Traveling Merchant into Reaver's Row for a showdown with the Mindsplitter and the Deadloom Predator. Unfortunately for him, Lu will respond by exhausting 1 rune for Misfortune's signature spell, Bullet Time. He decides to recycle 4 runes, dealing 4 damage to every enemy unit at Reaver's Row. This will kill the Noxus Hopeful and unsurvive the Kaisa Survivor, but unfortunately he missed the timing to retreat his Mindsplitter with Reaver's Row, so it will die to the Darius Trifarion. Hoping to maybe draw the answer he needs, Zhu will move his Traveling Merchant into Sigil of the Storm, discarding a card and drawing a card thanks to Traveling Merchant's effect. A 2nd Merchant probably wasn't what he hoped to see, and with nothing else to do, he'll pass the turn, restanding 2 runes thanks to Annie's Legend ability. Lu will score a point for holding Reaper's Row, then he'll channel 2 and draw for turn. He'll start things off by floating all 6 of his runes, then moving Misfortune Captain into Reaver's Row to restand one of the runes. He will then exhaust that rune and recycle 2 Chaos runes to play another Mindsplitter, making sure his opponent hasn't drawn any of those pesky answers. This time, he'll select the Ride the Wind, which I think is a great choice, making sure no insane Vi plays can somehow blow him out. He will follow this up by using the Misfortune's Legend ability to give the Deadloom Predator ganking. Then he'll put that ganking to use, moving the Deadloom Predator over to Sigil of the Storm, absolutely slaughtering the 2 units there, scoring his 5th point, and then forcing him to recycle a rune because of Sigil of the Storm. He'll then pass the turn, and because that wasn't enough, Aurora will now get him another free giant off the top of his deck. And who else would it be? But the giantest giant of all, Volibear Imposing. The Volibear will join Misfortune and Mindsplitter at Reaver's Row, then the turn will finally pass to Zhu. He'll then get things started by exhausting 4 runes and recycling a Chaos rune to play his Annie Stubborn into his base exhausted. The Annie Stubborn's effect will activate, allowing him to add a spell back to his hand. He chooses Ride the Wind, then exhausts 4 runes to play both of his Traveling Merchants into his base exhausted. And with nothing else to do, he'll pass the turn, restanding 2 runes thanks to Annie's Legend ability. Lu will score his 6th and 7th point for holding both battlefields, then he'll channel 2 and draw for turn. But he'll just pass the turn, because why exhaust runes when you can just get free cards off the top? And because why not, a 2nd Volibear Imposing comes off the top of the deck. Zhu will channel 2, and then he'll draw for turn. He'll get things started by moving his Traveling Merchant into Sigil of the Storm, allowing him to discard a card and draw a card. This will trigger both Volibear Imposing's abilities, allowing Lu to draw 2 cards. The Merchant, having done his best, will then be crushed by the Deadloom Predator. The next Merchant will do the same, except into Reaver's Row, because obviously letting your opponent draw 2 cards is kind of not good. The Merchant will discard a card and draw a card, thanks to its ability. The Merchant fails to find a Vi, and realizing that his other out of having his opponent fall into a coma probably isn't coming to fruition, Zhu decides to forfeit the game. That's all for now. Hope you enjoyed.